Thanks for being here. I just arrived from California Wednesday night and getting through my jet lag. I want to go over a few things with you. I thought I want to show you more than talk. So I'm going to first of all just start with a show reel. I'm going to show you my demo reel of what I've done for the last 25 years. And that should kind of frame up and we'll go from there. So sit back and take a look.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
My name is Optimus Prime. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron.
The boy's not here. He must have been playing by the sea.
I am the sea.
Always a Jedi. What do you mean?
Anything else?
Feel inspired?
Be inspired. Yeah. So good hero journey. Okay. It's all that. Why we watch movies is all that. But the main reason we go to movies is we want to relate to the character on the screen. When you walk out of a movie and you feel like you've connected with that character and it relates to you, you feel a little fulfilled. You feel like you've been heard. And that's why old movies like Marlon Brando, some of the great actors and actresses, they were able to convey things on the screen that was just a little tilt of the head, a little smirk of the mouth. You go, oh, I know what they're feeling. I know that because that's me. So we all are connected that way. And I want to start with that because that's what drives me in this industry. That's why I do this. Now, AI's come along and that's given us new tools. I know there's a lot of disruption going on and a lot of conversation. So today I'm not going to get in the politics of that, but I am going to get into the tool and why it's effective and why we need to embrace it. So I'm going to break this talk up into 3 parts. I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. I'm going to go through it. Some of you have heard it before, some in my class here. And then I'm going to talk about how you create a film. So I'm going to go through that fast. It's a fire hose of information. I want to start with my story so you can understand what drives me as a creative in this world. Back here. All right, so my story. So first of all, this is me at 6 years old. I was a big, I wore Superman, Batman suits when I was little. I was a big superhero fan and ran around in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was raised by a single mom, didn't have a father. And that's my brother. He's 6 years older. Joe's one of my best friends today. He and I ran around a lot together, played sports together. He was definitely the better athlete, and I was the artist. That's kind of how we defined ourselves. But mom did a great job at raising two boys in Tennessee. She did the best she could in the 70s, 60s and 70s. I had one big male influence. That was my grandfather. That's Homer B. Wilson. Homer. Remember that. I want you to remember this picture for a minute because I'm going to circle back to him. Homer and I were good buds at like 8 years old. So here's the deal. When I think of Homer, I think of sweet tea. And the reason why is because every Sunday he'd come over and mom would force me outside with him to sit and drink sweet tea and hang out for the day. And I wanted to go run and play with my friends, but she said, you guys spend at least 2 or 3 hours with Homer, and then you go play with your friends. And that was by far my best education because we used to go to the shopping mall, we used to hang out together, and he was an observer. He used to talk about people, how they walk. He taught me at 10 years old how to just observe people. So all of a sudden I became an observer, which actually is part of my story and about part of my art. I was reading comic books, very young age, just diving into these stories, really kind of losing myself in their stories. And ironically, here I am at 10 years old, reading these comic books, 10, 12, 13 years old. And at the same time, learning how to draw. This is like an 8-year-old picture. This is about 10 years old. And I was even doing Star Wars at like 11 years old, 12 years old, which is crazy, right? So at 10 years old, I was doing the same thing that I was doing at 30 years old. We'll get into that in a minute. So I graduated from this great university. And the best thing about Auburn, I did a panel yesterday. They asked, what's the greatest experience you had? The greatest experience was meeting my wife for 35 years here. Amy and I were in art together, and we graduated. She graduated a little after me. I stayed on the 5-year plan to keep up with her because she was a year behind me. And she graduated, went to Charlotte or Raleigh, and I went to Atlanta. Now, we didn't get married then. We took a good year or two to make sure we were, each other's person. But I graduated from Auburn with illustration concentration. I could not get a job to save my life. I moved to Atlanta. A dear friend, Auburn grad, helped me pay for my first month's rent, and I landed a job loading boxes in a warehouse in Macy's. That's what I did for 3 months. I went back and started working on my portfolio, and I realized I didn't give enough here. In fact, I really was more of a taker than a giver. I had great professors that wanted to dig in, but I just didn't do it. So here I am without a job, and all of a sudden I got motivated. And I remember leaving Auburn in '87, and the Mac Plus came out. And I looked at that thing and I go, I'll never be on a computer. That was my short-sighted ego, just saying, I don't need that. I'll do it by traditional artwork, which is what I did. I was with airbrush, Prismacolor, pencil, whatever it took, paints. It took me about 3 or 4 months. I did land a job in an agency doing marker comps for commercials. That really got me going. But here's what happened is when I was in Atlanta, I did propose to Amy. We got married in '89. And this is the date that changed my life. June 11, 1993. The movie came out. Nikki, you know which one it is? Big movie. Changed my life.
That's the part.
Yes. Bingo. I was sitting there watching this movie, and I was a self-taught 2D animator. I was learning 2D animation for my illustration. So that wasn't a hard transition. When I was sitting there with Amy in the theater, she remembers, I grabbed her arm and I'm like, that, I don't know what that is, but that's what I want to do the rest of my life. It had the moment. That was my moment. And so from there accelerated a process. For the next 2 years, I worked for different, I bartered my illustration skills to learn computer skills. And believe it or not, of all places, a place called WT Ministries out of Charlotte was getting these SGI machines, and they were creating graphic work, and they needed artists. So I was like, I'll help out. And I literally would do it for free. Well, they helped me. I trained on Softimage back in the day, SGIs back in the day. By the way, Jurassic Park was done by Silicon Graphics. Those machines, let me just push this. This is a first little short film I did, about 2 minutes, and it's combining my skill level. So I learned a little bit of 3D, I knew 2D, and it's a little story. I really need to get this VHS digitized and see what it looks like now. It's very crude, but it shows my capability and my desire in 1995 to pull the two together, take my traditional art and try to learn this 3D stuff. Very clunky, but it worked. And I was very lucky because here's the deal. The software I was working on at the time was about $30K. The hardware is about $40,000. And I was able to use that, barter that with another studio to help me learn. So over a period of 2 years, I was, in a way, self-taught to become an animator. That then took us to San Francisco. So what happened was I had a really crude demo tape. You saw my demo reel today. You saw my demo reel from 1996. You probably laugh. But I did get a job with Lucas. I had offered Pixar, Lucas, DreamWorks, a bunch of studios. And at the time, I always say, well, if you can move a mouse, then you got a job. But, you know, I had the creative bit to get into the technical door. And so what I did was, Amy and I moved to San Francisco. And this is my wife, Amy, I didn't want to share. That's her. We've been in the Bay Area for over 28 years. And we're celebrating 35 years of marriage this year. And we've had just a blast out there. Learned a lot. ILM was just the greatest masters I could ever get, because all of a sudden, and that's one thing I shared this yesterday in the panel. It wasn't that I had a goal to work for ILM. My goal was real simple, to work with someone who could take me to the next level. And that just happened to pull me right to ILM. And so when I got to ILM, I had 300 of my heroes right there. Those are the guys that did Jurassic Park. I'm sitting there going, are you kidding? I told Amy, don't unpack the boxes because they may fire me any day, because there was such a technical leap for me. I had to really like go after it. So we ended up, I ended up working there 12 years. I met some most amazing people. Again, this is Peter Mayhew, who was Chewbacca. You never saw Peter with his mask off, and he did this shot with me. I was part of the animation. I was an animation lead for a number of films: Hulk, Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, Narnia. I really got into my craft because I was very focused on the micro expression and the psychology of humans. And so that guy in the chair there in the white hair, that's Dennis Muren. He's 12-time Academy Award winner. Every big film you've ever heard of, he's a visual effects involved. The guy in the mocap suit, does anybody know who that is? That's Ang Lee, director of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He did Hulk with us, and I would sit with Ang and talk about the psychology of Hulk, because he knew I knew it. I was at 10 years old, I was drawing. So Yoda was really my main character I had an opportunity to work on. This is Frank Oz. Frank is the original puppeteer of Yoda and the voice. If you've seen the Muppets, Miss Piggy, all those characters, that's Frank Oz's voice. Frank's a phenomenal creative director. So he did the original puppet in the series that we saw back in the 80s, Return of the Jedi and things like that. We took that puppet And George wanted to digitize it and make him do new things, right? And so I became a lead on Yoda. All of a sudden, I worked for like 5 years on episode 1, 2, and 3. I just they slated me right in, and I became kind of the Yoda go-to when it came to close-ups. So when it came to the micro expressions, the Yoda, the wiggle, the ears, all that stuff, that was me, you know. So I set a lot of the tone for that, and just was in flow. I was in my element. I mean, I knew this character because Yoda. Let me just say one thing. Yoda is real simple. If you watch, do we have any Yoda fans in here? Okay, all right. So Yoda is real. Frank did something magical. He would, you know, it's like, you know, an old person going, You look, you come in and you process, and then you go out and you tell. Yoda was just in, deep thinker, out with the wisdom, right? So I had this in my, like, we just knocked this thing out. So we stood on the shoulders of Frank and started mimicking everything he did. And this is an example of me. Gosh, this was 2001 when I had brown hair. So there's no sound, but I'm pretty much acting out the performance. So every little head tilt and move in is important. It's just conveys the real essence of the character. So we as animators would walk around and help each other. We'd shoot these performances and I probably did 50 takes. And before I picked this one, before George said, you know, again, George was the boss. So we would work on these shots relentlessly. And one thing that George just really wanted it to be as close to the puppet, not over animated, but have all the mechanisms of the puppet. So again, we stood on Frank's shoulders, and through the course of those 5 to 6 years, you know, why was I getting this so easily? What was going on? And this is the point I want to make, is that, you know, we by osmosis, we intuitively know the human condition. We just do. We know the facial expressions. We know when someone's kind of not telling the truth. We know when someone's authentic. Well, why I was so fortunate to understand Yoda was this guy. I was studying him at 10 years old. And Homer had the Parkinson's little shakes. His ears didn't wiggle, but they probably did. And he had this mischievous kind of personality that I just knew intuitively. And I brought that to Yoda. Now, I didn't know it at the time. I even had people ask me, how do you get that so quick? I'm like, I don't know. I just kind of know it. I think I've studied it enough. But it took me years to realize, oh my gosh, I spent all that time with Homer. And I think that's what projected came out. So anyway, kind of like AI, looking for patterns, studying, observing, and implementing. That's what I was doing at 10, 20, 30 years old. So I'm going to go over the AI tools, but first I just want to show you something. Before I get into deep, I want to show you a couple of shots. This would be motion capture back in the day. This was Pirates of the Caribbean. So here, real quick, these guys are wearing these pajama mocap suits. We had 3 cameras. Okay, remember this: 3 cameras that triangulate and make an algorithm that then can pick up the 3D motion. So it kind of gives us the information. Then we clean it up and we actually hand animate the rest. This is an example of on set, Bill Nighy and actor going through the movements and the performance. And then we're supposed to take that and then on top of it, redo the performance with the characters. So this has simulation. Sorry, so I'm not sure why it's jumping. But this has keyframe animation, mocap animation, everything you can imagine. Again, apologize, it's so bitmapped. I'm not sure why that's happening. But in those days, we were already using AI. We were creating it at ILM, and we had smart people. You've heard of Photoshop? The head guy, John Knoll, is the brother of Phil Noel, who created Photoshop. John really perfected this motion capture process that we were doing way before anyone else. And we did get an Academy Award for it because everybody thought it was prosthetics. They thought it was, they didn't realize it was all digital. I want to jump to right now where I am. I've got a studio called Ignite Animation Studios up in Northern California. This is one of the projects I want to share real quick. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how we create a story. So this is Jeannie Schultz. You want to know who Jeannie is? Jeannie is Charles Schultz's wife of Charlie Brown, Peanuts. So Jeannie hired me and my little crew to create this short film about a puppy for canine companions. Real quick, when you start a story, this was just a 7-minute film, but when you start any story, you start with a concept. So you want to have a log line, the synopsis of it. So the synopsis of this film was a puppy overcomes obstacles to find his purpose in life. Really simple story. It's the Rudy story. It's the Rocky story. It's the, we can go on and on. So what you do is you create beat sheets for a story. This is what I did at first. I can create kind of the emotional points of the film. And a good story is a 3-act play. 3-act play, you start an introduction, you introduce your character, you get to know them. Act 2 is when you get to the end of that, is an all is lost moment where your characters, you don't know if they're going to get back. You cheer them on, hopefully. And then Act 3 is the resolution. Everybody goes home happy. That's pretty much the structure of every movie you see. The movies you don't like, don't go to that structure. They don't. Michael Bay films go crazy. So this is Andy, our story. That's our synopsis. So this is what this took a period of months to develop. We start with, again, the story beats, the opening image, the theme stated, the setup, go into Act 2, B story, fun and games. There's your all is lost moment. See that right there? Dark night of the soul. So you start to break all this down and you actually have a blueprint for a film. Then from there, you do write the script. I have a friend out of London who just does amazing work. He wrote the script for us and we worked together for a couple, probably a month. And then this is where it gets down to nitty gritty. This is my favorite part, is storyboarding. So now you're boarding the pieces that you've made into a story. And I've got a little, one quick too, the other thing too are the color scripts. This is very important too. Color is a very big emotional beat. Normally you see there in the middle where it's kind of blue, purple, you can almost see that. That's where the giving up part is. And we have a all is lost moment coming. So it's kind of the setup. And that's all happy at the end. Got God raises, you open up in the morning, you end in the evening. That was my plan as a director. The story reel, I want to just show you the quick story reel of how you throw music. This may not work actually. Let's see if it works. This is just drawing and music. You can already feel the emotion. No music. That's okay. This is my setup. Yep. All right, so hung on. So in those little drawings you just saw, we set up the Rudy moment, right? Everybody kind of get that, like he's the last one picked. Who's not been the last one picked? We all have. So we relate to him right away, so we built one. So we started this project. I share this because we started the project with great time, March of 2020. Couldn't been a better time. But Jeannie was fearless and we took off and we did it. That actually helped me take Ignite Studios into the remote world. So I use this as a great little pinpoint of, I had creatives all around the world working on this project and it was awesome. We never missed a beat. We met on Zoom 2 or 3 times a week, just like I did at I Lounge, just like I've done my whole life, my career. But we just did it on Zoom. I had riggers out in, I think we had a few out in Germany. We had Serbia working on this. We had Australia designer. We've got a writer in London. We've got concept artists up in Canada. I mean, we were all over the place. It was just so fun because I could handpick creatives around the world. So there's roughly about 70 artists, I think, that worked on this film. Yeah, I've got 70 artists. We've won multiple awards on film festivals. We're actually Oscar qualifying short. We made the top 50 or so, didn't make the final 5, but that's okay. It's a fun run, and we got a lot of recognition for this little heartfelt film. And oh, by the way, it's 2 years in production, and that's a pretty long time. But the fact that we did it remotely, right when the disruption happened, we managed to overcome the obstacles and really use it to our advantage. I use this back software. It was only about 3K per seat, and the hardware is only about 4K. That's probably high. So remember the number before, 30K and 40K. So that's how in 20 years or more, 25 years, it dropped to that. So that sets me up for where we're going into the next world. By the way, just for fun, I did a prompt on AI to say, make a golden lab. This is AI created with a cape. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, that just blew me away just playing around with Midjourney of what we could do. So I've got this, so what is AI in the entertainment industry? This is, I just had to write this down so you understand what we're dealing with here. And I'm sure most of you do, but it's a computer algorithm. All that information there, basically it's a computer algorithm that gives us tools to do our job. It's going to accelerate our jobs, and it's going to be able to really disrupt the film industry, episodic television, games, VR, any form of entertainment. And I'm excited. I don't think this is going to run, so I'm going to move forward. It's just not going to happen. I pulled this from PBS. This was just out a couple of weeks. Really, it's a good explanation of how the algorithms work and how they build off each other. And again, I'll tell you in my just simple terms, and we all probably know this, the AI is an algorithm that can start to understand patterns and can accelerate your, well, for my world, your creativity. It can accelerate the processes, can accelerate your own creativity. The fact you can get concept work instantly, not that you're getting the final work, but you're getting inspirational work. This I'm going to pass on to, because we're just not going to be able to hear it. So how are we doing on time? No.
You've got about 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. So now I set you up to tell you where I've been, what I've done, and where we're going. So right now we're talking about the AI tools that are in development. And these are the key ones for me. When you conceptualize a project, AI is huge. Storyboarding is becoming pretty big. Script development, we all know ChatGPT. It's working right now. We're able to put themes and I'm going to share that in a minute, how I'm working with one student, Alex, and how we did something that really was amazing to both of us. You can get characters, look, and style through this. One of the things I've really gotten into is Midjourney. I'm doing a project right now. This is a small job for a coffee shop out of Colorado. And Midjourney is basically, again, an algorithm pulling from imagery to give you what you're asking. So this is basically, you read my prompt, and this is what I wrote. Heartwarming scene, close up of father savoring a moment of pure joy, creating a steamed cup of coffee with his young son, with a sugary donut, blah, blah, blah. So and I wanted to get a J.C. Leyendecker or Norman Rockwell style, right? So that's why, and then these are images that I was doing in 5 minutes a pop.
So you said those words and that came up? Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. The girl, I changed one to say daughter. I've got probably 50 of these. I was just playing around. And what happens is you look at them, you go, ooh, that's good, but it's not, they're not good enough. You know, there's some weird, like, for example, AI is not the smartest in the world. I mean, you know, I don't know how she bends her hand to that. You know, I look at the details of a few things and there's some weirdness that happens. It still has issue with hands. I actually photoshopped donut in there, tried to cover up some problems, but these are just concepts that I can then go to the client instead of getting an artist that I work with for say 2 to 3 weeks. I can do this in 2 or 3 days. And you go, well, wait. And this is a touchy subject because my best friends are artists and I don't want to take them out of the game. But right now, if you can accelerate a process and a client makes a decision and says that, then I can get my artist to then recreate that. So that's all right. And so I will come back to artists. What I've done is it's an economy, right, of scale. So I'm trying to get into the budget and accelerate the process for my client to get the job done faster and with better value. Yes.
I was gonna ask a similar question with artists or models, actors, actresses,
Yeah.
you know, what's their response to?
Yeah, it's called a strike that happened this past. So look, I'll get to that. I want to come with a Q&A in just a minute. Let me just keep rolling. So you'll hopefully have a ton of questions. The other one is, so Midjourney, this is actually, my student actually created this image and his prompt was, you know, a house on fire. And he did a bunch of, now this is not, he did probably 20 images himself. And so for fun, we went to the next level. We took that into AI software called Runway. Anyone heard of this? Runway is, it's just blowing my mind. It actually gives it a camera tracking off a 2D image. But it's still not there, but it does something like this. Now watch what happens on the side of this house. It's kind of weird, right? I'm trying to go around the house. Actually, it does this weird, you know, everybody see that? Has anybody's brain worked on this? I pushed the camera in so far, watch it, it takes the front of that house and molds it into the side of the house, which is not, you know, that's wrong. So AI is a big dummy. Right? So it's not the smartest thing in the world. So then, you know, you work on it a little bit, you do something a little softer. And I thought this was cool. This is just a straight on push with fire blowing up. So it actually animates the fire, you know, right there. It's a interesting trick, but it's just a trick. You know, it's not pure 3D, but it gives you the illusion of 2D. This is going back to the donuts thing. This is something I kludged together the same way in Runway to show my client. He loved it, but I'm like, well, that's not it. That's if you love it, then we're in the zone, right? So you just do a little Norman Rockwell flavor. There's a lot of problems with this, but you know, it does its job. It's all about the concept. So that's more in development and conceptualization. Now we're getting into production. Now you go into production. This is where AI is actually coming into play too. Character modeling, environment designs, motion capture. Remember I showed you motion capture on Pirates? And also, you know, just admin, pipe tools, pipeline. It's absolutely changing our industry. I want to show you one quick thing on mocap today. This is remember I showed you the 3 camera view of Pirates. This is what's going on today. This is one camera. In real time. You're like, what? All right, so I got so excited about this last night. I'm putting a few things together and I've been wanting to try this tool out for a while. So this is embarrassing, but this is what I did last night with my iPhone in the hotel room. In less than 6 minutes. Watch this. See if it goes in real time. I don't know what I'm punching, but I'm just trying to move, try to get some movement. And I'm like, so I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't go to bed till midnight last night because then I was getting excited. I'm like, what else have we got? What can I do to show awesome? What can I do something here? So there's really cool things that are accelerating. Now, this is the coolest. Have we heard about Sora? I know Austin has.
Yes.
This has actually got our industry shaking. And I'm not shaking because that's the ugliest creature I've ever seen. But this is a animation they did. And the prompt was a sea otter riding a surfboard in the ocean, blah, 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 right? And it's like, well, that's actually pretty good. Trust me, fur, all that stuff, that's hard work. Could take to rig a character, to animate. The animation's not good at all, but it's got the potential. So you can actually do this again for more of the development side of show someone what you're looking to get, and then let the animator take it to another level. Here's another one. This is a robot in a punk scene. It's just weird. But the fact that it pulls up all these details are crazy. My favorite one was this one. This blew my mind. That the prompt was mammoths running in the snow toward the camera. I'm like, what? So now I've heard Sora will not let you get in their program yet unless you're a special agent. I don't know if you've got it. I'm trying to get into it because I've heard rumors. It's not, it's kind of like Avatar, they'll talk about, oh, this is all done by computers. I know the people working on that. There are artists and animators and visual effects people working hours to refine what is being done there. They love to pitch it like it's just this thing, but no, you can get 80% of your work done, but we all know the last 20% is crucial. And that's where the creative will always be involved, beginning and the very end. If you can accelerate the tools, hey, I'm all for it. Yeah, get me there quicker. Because that's all I've done my whole life is I've grabbed reference and I tried to imitate it the best I can. Yeah, so disruptive. Here we go. AI, AI wrote this sign. these are so the writers went on strike this past summer, so did the actors because of all the disruption going on. So what's the disruption? Well, it's pretty much all the stuff I've showed you. This is called, you can look at it two lenses. It's either disruption or it's innovation. And my whole talk is about let's embrace the innovation because the horse is already out and it's only going to accelerate our work. I mean, there will be careers, there'll be new roles, there'll be new skill sets. And I'll tell you real quick, when I was learning 2D animation, Beauty and the Beast came out. I remember the ballroom scene and the 2D, and I was working with 2D animators, and they just threw down their pens and like, our career's over. And I'm like, what? And I'm just getting started. I go, what? No, it can't be. You're still going to need, no, we're done. It's like, that couldn't be farther from the truth 25, 30 years later, because you still need, I mean, who saw Spider-Verse? I mean, who's seen Arcane? 2D is making a great comeback, and it's very important that the artist is involved in getting that style, that look. So I predict there'll be some fun things going on. Real quick, I have to share one thing. This is something my company just did for Auburn. We created the first digital mascot, and this is a turntable. That's not really Albie. That's just a model, and then we put fur on him, which looks like this. And we created this great, also gave him a little, cool Iron Man deal. And did anyone go to Iron Bowl, you see it? That was what we did. And I have it here, but again, it's not going to really show up well enough. But we hope to do much more. And now that we have a digital Albie, we can do anything. So, and for example, let me just give you a quick example. I'm going to talk to Auburn this week about, we can take my little iPhone, mocap Albie doing his thing, get the mannerisms, saves us a ton of time animating that. And then he can jump from here up to the tower if he wants in our animation. So we now combine those little palettes would make Albie do the ordinary to the extraordinary. And that's what's fun about my job, bringing characters like that. So that's it. That's a quick, in a nutshell,